It is time. Hello and welcome. It looks like Martine was for sure here and ready to go and to discuss. We are here today for the Shelf This Book Club to discuss A Dowry of Blood, which I usually have to hold up, but I didn't buy it this month. Thank you, Danielle. Which was chosen by Danielle.
Thank you.
She has fully committed herself to her vampire era, so.
Oh, and it's not ending. This vampire era will continue for the next few
Do you
weeks.
have more, like, on the list of what you're trying to get to? Or, like,
Well, so
other vampire stuff?
Carmilla. I finished Dracula.
You did that.
I plan on reading I Am Legend. I plan on reading Salem's Lot. I plan on reading Nosferatu. I plan on reading some other classic originals. Also, Cool Gamer. That's Emmett. That's very sweet. Hi, Emmett.
Cute.
My plan is just to literally consume as much vampire stuff as I can.
Like, are you going to do this soon, or, like, those are just things that, like, in the back of your mind you know you want to read?
Soon. My goal is to have my vlog probably, because I'm doing a video where
You're going to include all of those in your vlog?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm going to keep it going for a while.
Okay.
And then, so I'm doing, my goal is to do a Twilight viewing party.
Okay.
Where I want it to be like Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Are you going to reread Twilight?
I've read it so many times that I don't think so.
Okay.
But maybe I'll read like Life and Death or something like that. One of the newer ones again.
It looks like Lizzie strolled in. She wasn't sure she was going to be able to make it because she had a thing to be at, but I'm glad that she is here. So usually I just like to start by asking anyone who's here if this was on their radar or TBR before Danielle chose this for us.
While we wait, I was going to say, I wanted to read this for like, honestly, I want to say a couple years almost now.
It's been very hyped, and so it's one of those things that, like, I kept seeing and was like, we all know that I like to read hyped books. Like, I read very popular books. I'm by no means the person coming and being like, I'm going to introduce you to new things. No, I like popular books, but I knew that this was very out of my comfort zone, so I don't think I ever would have actually read it. If not for the book club, or like if it was presented to me in this way of like, I should read it to participate in this thing, I don't think I would have just like picked it up on my own.
Well, when we were choosing what to read, when I was choosing, I know I was like, I don't know, but this was like the instinct first one I said I wanted to read was like,
because I wanted you were gonna choose this, and then you're like, maybe I'll change my mind, like don't lock that in. And then I kept like checking back, like, you're going to change it? You're going to keep it? And finally you were like, I'm just going to keep it. So
I wanted to read it so bad. Yeah. I really did.
Yeah. And Lizzie had already read it this year. And then she read it again.
I love that.
Love that. All right. Do we want to say, I don't know what you rated it and you don't know what I rated it?
I'll say mine.
Okay. You want to say what everybody, if you want to say what you rated it.
Yeah. So 5 stars.
Okay.
5 stars.
I'm not surprised.
I could arguably say maybe a 4.5.
Okay.
But I would round up 5 stars.
Okay. Martine said 4, which I...
You know what? I really am surprised by that from Martine. But I'm happy. We just don't agree on anything.
The only thing... I mean, I don't want to speak for Martine, is that this was a little bit more like erotic than I was expecting.
That's where I was shook at a little bit.
Yeah. So, I also gave it 4 stars, but I like really like instinctively had a really good time reading it and think that it was like well done and a very good book and can understand why people are obsessed with this, but it still is just like that like little bit out of my comfort zone that I was just like, it's not like my favorite thing.
Can I jump into like my first question? Because I have a bit of a theory ongoing in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Did you audio or just physical?
I audioed, which we all know I'm not like a super audiobook girl, but I do think it was the right decision for me with this book because the audiobook was very like, I thought it was really well done and very like pretty.
I want to hear more from the audio narrator. I want to hear more of her.
I actually looked at what else she had narrated, and there wasn't much that I recognized. I'm trying to think. There was one specific book I recognized that I was like, ooh, but no, I'm not remembering what it was.
So the reason I ask is because I specifically did audio with the physical read.
Okay.
And I think that is an above and beyond experience, mostly because, like, so one thing that she utilizes so much in this book that I think is so great is page breaks and
right.
very specifically, intentionally, like, short pages. But when you listen to the audiobook, it just goes on.
Yeah, right.
You get those breaks. But when you're reading it, you get it just kind of makes it more punchy.
I will say, even in the audiobook, because there's no chapters in this, it's just like 3 parts, that the audiobook did feel very like it just keeps going, like going and going and going. Because there's not much breakage.
And it would have so much breakage and so much like this line
that is a different vibe.
Exactly. And I thought that the combo was what really did it for me.
Yeah, I understand that. So Lizzie actually said that she rated it less this time.
With the eyeball. Interesting.
Yeah. And Martine agreed that the writing was pretty. I liked the characters. Yeah. I did know going into this from like watching other people talk about this book that like a lot of people say it clearly is about Dracula's brides, but he is never mentioned. Like it's never mentioned that that's who it is. So I find that interesting because if I had never heard that, I don't know enough about Dracula that I would have known.
Well, then what's interesting is in Dracula, his wives are never named.
Oh, so that's like clearly a thing. Like that was a choice.
The power back and saying, her choosing to not give him that power over her. Also, this was my notebook for all my notes. I hope that everybody loves them. Thank you.
I love it for you.
Thanks. Yeah, I literally put on here, so the power of taking his name away. Hell yeah.
I preferred the audiobook. I think the atmosphere was excellent. Yeah, I think the audiobook was very well done because I usually have a very tough time with audiobooks and like did follow this. Although I think anytime I read an audiobook, there are things that I like miss, which I'm sure did still happen, but it was probably for the best. I just wanted to mention as a thing of like probably like vampires in general, I'm not interested in because I find there's this thing for me that I really don't like the thought of like the veins on my wrists and arms. And so the first like erotic scene, I think it's she drinks from his wrist or he drinks from her wrist, and that really like just makes my skin crawl. Way less than like biting of the neck or like, and so that just really makes me want to barf. So that like took me out of the story. And that's why I don't think I would seek out more. Like, I don't think by any means that I'm like, I want to read about vampires, because it does kind of give me the ick.
I can't, like, people are really, like, real life into blood play. And I can't fathom the sticky, like, cleaning up and, like, the pain. Like, when it's a vampire.
It's just, like, make me squirmish.
Yeah, so, but, I'm living for it right now. I think I do, a good bite here and there. It's fun.
Okay, fair. I mean, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just girly things.
Do you want to talk about other vampire things first, or do you want to like full spoil talk about the plot of this book?
Probably talk about the book because some of my points will just be things that came up that like I noticed.
Yeah.
Like things I noticed in this book that I noticed as crossovers in the other literature I read.
Okay, Martine dropped in with a lot of thoughts. I think the reason the erotic stuff doesn't bother me about this is because we studied the purpose of sexuality in vampire stories in my monsters in fiction class, so I see it as like a literary thing, which is very interesting.
I just also thought though Gibson did it so tastefully. Like it was so like it was just it got the feeling that they wanted, but it didn't go on too long. I think because it was such a short book.
I'm doing a thing. I'm looking up the author. Do we know what they're working on? Like, are they giving us more things?
So there
is vampires going to be their thing?
Did your copy have the prequel story in it? The sequel story?
No, I only listened to the audiobook like through my library.
So
Oh,
this
it's a 1.5.
This version has a sequel short story that's at the end of it that I got to read. And then, actually, I just found out.
I'm guessing that's what this 1.5 is. An Encore of Roses, it says it's called.
Yes. And then
There's a book coming in 2024 called An Education in Malice, which is connected to this.
There's a character called Carmilla in it. So I think it's going to be a Carmilla retelling.
I think it's, yeah, like essentially a series.
Very excited.
Okay.
Yeah, I would
consider also listening to the audiobook of that. Like, I could be convinced.
I will definitely be picking up more from this author.
Yeah, they have other books. This is not their debut, which I didn't realize.
But I think it is their first one to get picked up by publishers.
Yeah. And so I don't know what the other ones were, but they're very beautiful covers. But there's another one here that is not part of the, like, A Dowry of Blood that says it's also getting published in 2024 called, I don't even know how you would pronounce it. Evocation. And it's tagged as just like fantasy LGBT. So I don't think that is a retelling. So there we have that. There's a tangent about what the author has going on.
I wanted to say that anyway, so I took that note.
There's no linear way that I discuss anything.
That's fair. Sometimes I might go back and forth on if I miss one of my notes too.
Yeah, that's life. Compared to smexy things in other romance books, I feel like the erotic scenes were very much fantasy and not at all what I want in reality. That's fair. Like, to say like this is like a vibe, but like I don't want that. I feel like that's a lot of my feelings in a lot of romance books.
I felt being swept away the same way that Costanza was.
I mean, it was like, it did feel like all consuming. Like, you understood why they were like spiraling into this clearly like abusive relationship, like codependency situation. Like, I was convinced of what was going on. I mean, because usually I would be screaming like, why are we fucking with this man? Like,
yeah,
why is this taking so long? Why are we still in love with him? But it is just like the vibe of like, you feel like that they were swept up, and it was like they thought it was, all of a sudden their whole life was around this. I don't know the right words to use. Like, I want to say like
so
culty, but it's not really culty. It's like,
it's just the manipulation.
Yeah.
Well, so here's an interesting thing that I'm intrigued by. So in the original Dracula, when he starts feeding and turning one of the characters, her name is Mina, into a vampire.
Okay.
We'd learn that he has mind control powers. He can, like, by having her eat his blood, he is able to influence and see through her mind and
like he's her. Basically like part of her now and is like
puppeting.
So they're like connected extra.
Yes. So I think that was some of what was going on, where he was so influential because
I know that when you were partway through Dracula, you weren't enjoying it. Are you willing to share?
I still hated it.
Your end thoughts? Okay.
I think the story was fine. The scenes of the ship, which is like what I hear is like what people got from this book.
They're on a ship?
Yeah, well, it's a scary story of like how Dracula ate all the people on this ship, and like they found the last guy.
I don't know anything about Dracula.
Yeah. It just wasn't. It was fine. I don't know what I'm gonna rate it. I just think I don't really love classics, and I was just kind of bored.
I think it's one of those things where even though you disliked it, now you'll notice all the connections of like other stuff that story has probably influenced.
Yeah, so it's like perspective.
Like, you didn't like it, but you'll be like, "Oh, now I know."
Whereas I would say like Frankenstein, I actively love and respect. But also, I also heard Carmilla, like, I haven't done any research on this, but I heard the guy actually wrote this as like anti-lesbian literature.
Yeah, I saw somebody say that recently.
So I'm also like, screw him too. But it was still hot. He was like, she was always like, I didn't want to be attracted to her. And then he would like describe her in the hottest way ever.
Martine said she
So-
loved how much time passed.
That was one
I
of my
mean,
points.
that is too, like, because with time passing, like, you realize how deep they are into this, or like how long this has been going on, that it gets harder and harder to end.
Yeah, I think on
Or, like,
page
more all-consuming.
I wrote down like on page 49 was when she was like, yeah, decades passed.
Right.
And I was like, okay.
Well, because then when is his name Alexi shows up, and like she says a lot about how like she's basically an old hag and he's like a young.
Mm-hmm.
Because in a lot of other vampire books, they stress that they are immortal, but we don't comprehend how.
And it was also interesting the toll it took on them. As I thought it was really, really interesting when there was, and this is kind of jumping a little ahead, but when one of the characters, really getting to some really depressed states because, people weren't meant to live forever. And
Yeah.
I was doing some of my research, and there was actually a quote from Interview with a Vampire where one of the characters was basically like, we're not meant to live this long, so most of them commit suicide by the time they're older because they're just like, you lose any will to live.
Right, like what do I do now? What's the point? Right.
I thought it was really interesting to show that through Magdalena.
Yeah, agreed. I like that there was the historical influences. I also like that it was really just like there wasn't like side characters. It was just about like them. Like there wasn't a bunch of stuff going on. Enjoyed Carmilla but didn't love it.
That's fair.
I really related to Magdalena. I think like if I lived that long and like that, I would really struggle.
Well, one of my favorite quotes from her, and this was something that Alexi really struggled with too, is Dracula promised that they could live, but what is life stuck in a building with the three other people? Like, is that living?
No.
That's why Alexi was like, I wanted to be with people.
Yeah.
And what's the biggest thing too, and we're really just running. This is our brains. They just go
everywhere. This is how I discuss everything.
But, the only reason they were trapped inside of there is because Dracula wanted the power over them.
I mean, right, like for no, like their manipulator is the reason.
And the sequel story, if you read it, a lot of people hate it. I thought it was fine. I don't think it was necessary.
Was it long?
No, it was like 13 pages. But it was literally just like them all in the future, like 30 years or something like that. And they're all just like coming together again. They're just meeting up.
Oh.
But they're all living normal lives. Like they're like, we still have to be careful.
So it's basically like an epilogue.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. They added an epilogue.
I mean, if I ever needed like something for a prompt for something, I would read a 13-page thing.
And it was cute, and it was it just gave you a little taste of like their freedom now.
I mean, that seems like a good addition.
Yeah.
Ruby.
Hello, Ruby.
I can't believe you're so late. Time zones got me. I'm sorry.
What did you rate it, Ruby? We need. I think I know, but say it anyway. And was it on your radar?
She seemed really excited that we were all like anticipating when we were all reading it. So I think she liked it. That's my prediction.
Also, I was supposed to definitely wear my vampire teeth, but it was going to be like boiling water and like a bunch of processes. And I was like, I thought I bought the cheap ones because they were like $8. They're fancy. So I didn't do that.
They're fancy.
I was like, no.
Oh, so they both read I'm the only one who didn't read I'm sorry. I'm a bad host because I never remember to be like, hey, live show today. Hey, live show in 1 hour. Hey.
I just know things are stressful for you right now, Ruby. So I just thought maybe you were just not here.
Ruby gave it 3 stars.
I have like 2 more points about the first part.
Yeah, let's hear
page 61. There was.
I have no concept of pages because I listened to the audiobook.
That's okay. It was just droned into me in school where they were like, if you're gonna talk about a section, put the page number. So I like to do that. But it was just it was talking about when the plagues started arriving.
Oh, yeah.
And this was like when Dracula and Constanza were still just the only two. And I just thought it was so funny because she was like, She said, plague time is different. It stretches and looms. And she talked about how the plague took more than just the lives, it took time. And I went, does anybody feel like the pandemic took 7 years of their life away? Because I was like, yes.
Yeah.
I just was like, that's true. I do feel like the biggest thing the pandemic took was time itself.
Oh yeah, like you feel like you had years of like snatched from you.
Gone.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was, when I read that, I was like, relatable.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. That's our lowest rating so far, right?
Except
I said that funny, but yeah, I think it is. I think the rest of us all gave it 4. And you gave it a 4.55?
Kayla read it before the book club. Though. I think.
I don't know what she rated it.
Like it.
Okay, I don't remember. Loved the Not to Plagues in any vampire book.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say I recently read a book that also talked about the plague, but we all read a book that talked about plague, because wasn't it? What's that book called? The one that Lizzie picked.
Oh yeah.
Delicious Life. Didn't they talk about plague in that?
I think so.
Yeah. Oh, also felt slow to me. I mean, there's not much like driving plot. I think we were kind of talking about that it is just like a vibe, and also the feeling of them getting like swept up into this.
Yeah, it feels like
consuming.
I would agree. It felt
like plot heavy, right?
It was like a gothic slow. It was like.
I think that's why the audiobook was the right choice for me, because I also only listened to it driving. Mm-hmm. So like I wasn't ever just like sitting here like trying to listen to it.
Oh, see,
like, I was distracted enough.
You'll see in my vlog, I also set myself up for success because I lit candles and I put on a romantic, like gothic vampire ambiance, and it was just everything.
You went for it.
Yeah, it was so good.
But I liked it still. I don't know if I would have liked it as much if I didn't listen to it all in one go.
Ruby, one thing you missed real quick, I was just going to say that I stand by this being a big negative to the audiobook, is that the author uses page break and stuff quite a bit. So like there will just be like one line on a page and it just adds to the pacing a lot better, whereas the audiobook just went
right. And I had said the audiobook actually isn't broken down hardly at all because there's no chapters, so it just feels like it keeps going. And she's like, the book is like really choppy. I was like, yeah, that's a whole different.
And I love short chapters, so like having a page.
Yeah, I do too.
It made it so much faster.
Yeah. Do you have any other specific points about part 2?
About part 2 or part 1?
Do you have more on part 1? Keep them coming.
The only thing I had was that I think it was like page 70 was when he, like the first time she started really acting out or just like acting differently, and he abandoned her for like 2 days and just to come back almost like he was giving her a reward of himself.
Yeah.
It made me really mad.
It's toxic. But we get somewhere in the end.
That was kind of the only part about that one.
I mean, that is the plot building. Like that's showing little things of like, this is miserable for the other people involved. Like this is so manipulative.
Yeah, it hurted.
It hurted.
But that was it for that first section.
What do you got for part 2?
Not as much.
Okay.
The one thing I would say is this S.T. Gibson's writing in general by the second part was really reminding me of Madeline Miller's.
I've never read.
Just Cersei, Song of Healing, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I just it wasn't necessarily that I think it's like similar or evocative. It's just it just gave me the similar vibes where it's very distinct. Where it's like I think if I read more from S.T. Gibson, I'm excited to see if this voice is something she continues in her other stories. Like
I think this story in general has that vibe where it fit, where depending on what they want to write next, like will it always fit?
That's why I'm really excited. Yeah,
I do like following an author's. I just think, especially when they have something that's so popular like this was, to then see what they do next is like a big thing always. Like if someone has a really, we said I realize this isn't her debut, but when someone has like a debut that pops off, it's like that's a lot to swallow up.
Thank you, Ruby. I literally wrote in here and said it feels like a dark Cersei. It felt like a darker Cersei.
The perspective does have Madeline Miller vibes. I don't think that's the same thing of like vampires, Greek mythology is all stuff that feels like out of reach to me. Like it's not stuff that I gravitate towards, but apparently I enjoy it because every time it seems to be presented to me, I've been liking it. So
thank you. Well, and then what's interesting too, because I didn't realize Carmilla is also written in like you did this, you would never know. Like it has a couple moments like that.
Okay.
And I didn't realize that like most vampire literature is epistolary, and most of it is like written in
second person
letters or second person. Like, and I just thought that was really interesting. The only other note that I had too is this is when obviously Magdalena enters. I thought I was swept off my feet by Magdalena. I thought that whole scene of them meeting and the ballroom.
Oh yeah, I think that like I was very intrigued by Constanza's like clear intrigue of Magdalena.
But it was so frustrating to see that the one time that Constanza had started feeling affection for another person, he like freaked out.
Oh yeah, he was holding it against her. He was holding her intrigue of Magdalena against her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hate that man.
Yeah.
That's kind of it for that part, to be honest.
It's also both humanizing mythical beings. Seems like the right word. That's yeah.
Oh my gosh. Just okay. I'll wait for that part. I just was so angry the way that he wanted to hide information from them and didn't like, because part of it is like, why didn't you leave? And I like that she does address that for herself. Like, I did try once and then I just never thought of it again. It's how he specifically kept information from them. Like, they didn't really know what would happen if they drank each other's blood. They don't know what would happen.
And they start becoming more curious, obviously. And then he's always like, what are you doing? We don't know what's going to happen. Or
even like they didn't even know that a stake through the heart would kill him.
Yeah.
But he kept that information. The first time when she went through and found his box of letters, I was upset to find out. Because I was wondering, because any research I did do on the original wives and how they like weren't talked about and stuff like that, is I was like, what happened to them then? Especially when I found out like Alexei was going to enter. I thought it was going to be 3 women. I didn't realize he was going to bring.
I didn't know that.
So that's when I was like, so these aren't the original 3 brides that are in Dracula. So what happened? And then you find he murders them all.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
Do you have a next point? I like that you're dragging us through this linearly because I have no capability of doing so.
I just feel bad. I hope I'm not taking over. I get so excited.
Is he Dracula though? I thought that was like the point.
Yes. I think like S.T. Gibson has said in interviews like very clearly that it's Dracula's bride.
Yeah.
But I think the whole point is, I had mentioned this earlier too, Ruby, is in Dracula, which I think Ruby did read, is how they never named the wives in Dracula, and so that was almost her claiming it back by saying like, you're not even worth putting your name on a paper.
I get what you're saying, Ruby, but I do think that it has been said so many times that like that's what this book is.
Because did you know this is one of those like Google Lens covers where if you like scan it, it like animates it and it gives you information? Really cool. You'll have to look into them. But if you scan the back of it, the author talks a little bit about it, and she talks about what inspired it, and it was really well said. I'm pretty sure in that she says it was Dracula.
Okay. Time frame wise,
Ruby,
I don't think it's like a direct retelling. Like, I do think it's inspired, but I do think that it's supposed to be Dracula. Just like how I've heard it discussed and pitched, but what do I know? Absolutely nothing.
Actually, though, no, it is Dracula. I know why it is Dracula, because it directly references the Harkers. There is I have it on here somewhere, but there is a page. Yeah, the reference to the Harkers. So Mina Harker, which is that girl I was talking about that he mind controlled.
Okay, yeah.
This book references it because he's Constanza is talking to Alexei or somebody, and she's like, there were some troubles in the medieval times with those Harker people.
Yeah, and she also says, like, the whole concept of her being like, he's had, like, I wasn't his first. He's done this before. He's had wives before. Is like also, I would assume this being clearly set like after Dracula.
Because the tongue in cheek was like, that was the problems in the medieval times. Because he found her, I don't know what time, but yeah, I have no idea when he found her. That's it. That's the end of my sentence. Oh, I have no. I thought Dracula took place in medieval time.
I don't know. It would make no sense for it to be a direct retelling because of Dracula's death in both cases. Right. Like, it's not a sequel to Dracula. It's not a direct retelling of Dracula.
Inspo. That's fair. I guess I didn't really consider the timelines that much. I do question at the end of the book, this is jumping a little bit, when Alexei starts going and like has a ticket to go on that ship, was that the Titanic? He was like, had that ticket to go on the trip, and they're like, we're going to New York, and they're like, good luck, be safe, and I was like, is that the Titanic?
That would have gone over my head. I didn't catch that.
Oh, okay. I see. Definitely not a prequel. Maybe just would be considered inspired by. Yeah, I thought it was the Titanic. I was like, is this the Titanic? Is he about to sink into an iceberg?
Is that how this story ends?
But yeah, I was shook when we found out Alexei was joining, because I have always heard it as the three brides, but I had no idea it was going to be a guy. Which, like,
I mean, I do think it helped again, like, bring Constanza back into her, like, that it was about her.
I was surprised. So one of the biggest things with vampire literature that I was reading about and looking into is they're always polyamorous, almost always, and they're always bisexual to some degree. I just thought it was interesting that, like, Dracula would bring someone in just
to compete with him.
Yeah, I would think he would, like, be worried about his territory. And there are moments where he does.
I mean, he uses Alexei very much against the girls, though.
No, I definitely agree. In general, I was like, this is tea. I was like, this is, but it's crazy because, like, when he was all sick and, like, not feeling well, Dracula was like, I love the boy. And then when Alexei started really getting into a relationship with Constanza, he started freaking out. Yeah.
Oh.
I think that's super interesting.
I haven't read, like, in general that much, like, paranormal anything, let alone just vampires. Willing to try. I do think at some point there will be a reason for me to read Twilight.
You haven't?
I've never read Twilight. I've read the first book, like, but don't remember a thing, and, like, never.
There will be time.
Yeah.
It will happen. They're not good. Donate to the actual.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Lives that were hurt.
That's fine.
But I still love them.
He's just so much older than Alexei. I feel like there wasn't going to be competition. I mean, but that was a thing too, that, like, he was a young. Why would Alexei be interested in everyone else? Because he was so young.
For my birthday this year, will everybody just read Twilight instead of getting me a gift? You all just read Twilight.
Realistically, it's not going to happen for me in that time frame, but okay. Your birthday's in October, right?
No, it's not.
When is your birthday?
New Year's Eve.
Oh, duh.
Yeah. Anyway.
Sorry.
Anyway. Oh, another interesting thing that I have, like, I have discussion questions. So, Ruby, please.
At
Ruby,
least she's being honest.
I know. I love them. They're so bad. They're so good.
I support that for you. Like, I'm not.
I just think that I do love, one of my favorite things was, like, after reading all this vampire stuff and reading what tropes are similar, I love that Stephanie Meyer was just like, no, they can go out in the sun. They just sparkle. I just love that.
Is Twilight polyamorous at all?
No, but
no.
It could have been. It could have been. Jacob
okay, but it wasn't.
It could have been. It was a first mistake. Well, and also Alice should have been queer. A lot of the Twilight things.
Okay, but Stephanie Meyer herself did not choose to make that decision.
Well, she self-inserted herself in the whole story.
Okay.
All right, Ruby will at least watch the movies. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love her for it. I love that she did that. T. So one of my things I put was, so I looked up what Constanza like meant. I mean, it means like constance and like steadfast and like very like constant. Constanza, constant.
Martine's getting worked up.
Yeah, listen, let's get back to this book. We're not, if we want to discuss Twilight,
that's a different that's a different thing.
That I would need 3 hours for. So but the my thing is, so Dracula names her that. We don't know what Constanza's name was before.
Oh yeah, I forget that. But she's like, I had a name before, but
yeah. So I wonder though, did he intend to fall for her and have her be a long-term figure in his life? Like, how much of that role did he force onto her of the like matronly first wife? You know what I'm saying?
I do think that yes, he intended for that.
But I just thought that was interesting because I was like, we don't know what her name was before.
Yeah, we don't really know anything about her before. Because she essentially is like nothing before.
Yeah.
Mattered.
Like, that is a little bit to me. That is very important to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought that was an interesting moment.
I agree. I was gonna say, I feel like you could make a prequel, but I think it wouldn't be that interesting, to be honest.
I also thought it was so horrible how he had convinced, just through his general actions and behaviors, he had convinced Constanza that she needed to stifle Magdalena's will for freedom. Like, Magdalena wanted, like, she needed help and freedom.
Yeah.
And he had convinced Constanza that it was her job to stifle that. And how Constanza regretted it so much.
I'm impressed with how hard you thought about this book.
Thanks.
I'm always beat-bopping through books, just like, yeah, it is what it is. And you really came prepared today.
Thank you. I tried.
You're making me think hard today.
Thank you. I tried. Everybody's just stopped responding because it's not about being angry at Twilight anymore. Everyone's like, we're tired of Danielle. She talked about Twilight too much. That's
why not.
I just love it. Oh, another interesting discussion question I put. What do we all think about the way vampires turn in this book? So the fact that it's not like Twilight. It's just, I always thought vampires, honestly, I thought it was just you bite, they're a vampire.
I don't know.
They had to suck his blood to become a vampire.
I don't know how in other stories that happens. I'm not the person to ask.
But what did you think in general about it? Did you think it was like, I thought it was such an interesting extra element of control?
It just felt like, I guess I assumed that's how it worked.
Sick.
Martine just texted me though and said that every time she tries to chat in the chat, it's giving her an error message.
Oh no. Are we still live?
So she would like to chat, but is cannot right now. And I don't know how to fix it either.
Well, sad.
Yeah, she sent me a picture.
I think like it cut off the chat.
I don't know. I'm so sorry. I don't know how to fix it.
I'm just gonna pull it up on my phone real quick and see if it would let me chat.
Then I'm gonna like
We're definitely still live.
ban user and delete their comments.
Oh, testing.
Oh, there she came.
Oh, reloaded the page. There we go. There we go.
Okay.
So yeah.
Hi guys. Hi everybody. Ruby's also saying hello.
Do you guys have any opinions on the way vampires are?
People who know more about vampires than I think it was vampire canon a little bit for her to forget her old life.
Right. I just thought it was so interesting that he chose the name Constanza. Like,
that's what you're saying about what the name means.
Yeah.
Right.
And he didn't name the other two. They both kept their names.
Oh.
Angelina and Alexei kept their names.
I do not be realizing things.
I'm just now realizing things.
I'm waiting for Martine's thoughts to come through.
Yeah, come through.
I'm so thirsty. I'm sorry I keep drinking this.
Oh, no, I have mine too, so.
Okay. And that's that with the way she died. It was clear. I don't know how to read. Clearer than for the others that she would do whatever it took to keep her life.
Ah.
And he interpreted that as her having that role.
Ah. Can we talk about how much he talked down to her for wanting to fight, go after bad people? And how he was like, there's no reason to do that. Just take whoever's innocent. And when he forced her to take innocent people instead of letting her go after the bad, like, she wanted to go after rapists and murderers, and he didn't want her to do that.
Like, I think that's what is making him a clear, like, bad guy is because he doesn't care who it is.
It's a huge cliche. Because, like, even in Twilight, Edward Cullen, when he does drink human blood, because he left the family, went and drank human blood, he would only go after serial killers and rapists. They had to drink the blood. Yeah, I just thought that was an interesting thing. I won't read those. I already have them.
You have such like unfounded opinions on those. When you tried to trash talk my man's Justin Bieber the other day, I was like, you have no reason for this.
You're like, you're coming for me? I love that.
I actually didn't realize there was vampires in the Shadowhunters books. I really don't know what those are at all.
Oh, my only other point is I was reading the epilogue, and S.T. Gibson, if you're watching this, I love you. You have to stop talking about absinthe. It was mentioned like 3 times within 50 pages. That they used absinthe or had a description like absinthe-like, and I was like, oh my god, absinthe is not.
I mean, it is like a descriptor that like clearly would stand out to then like use it over and over again. But I didn't notice it.
The first time I was like, cool. Second time I was like, cool. And then it was right in the sequel, and I was like, okay, too much now. I think that was my last point though about that.
Okay, but that's her favorite metaphor.
Yeah, that's her favorite metaphor is absinthe.
Is that
But she used it so many times.
Excuse me.
I also, back to Ruby's thing, I do love an unpopular opinion. I love when people hate my opinions too. Like, that's fun. Oh,
is this true?
I dissociated through so much of Dracula. I couldn't tell you. That's okay. True. I just was a little. I was like, "Girl, your book's too short." I'm noticing that you keep talking about absinthe.
Are we gonna talk about the end now?
About the end?
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, you know, our three bad boys, so Dracula, being a cocky punk,
Leave.
decided to feed on people like in the town and gets caught.
Yeah.
And then because of his like arrogance, he thinks it's just going to be fine. And our three main characters are like afraid.
As they should be.
As they should be. So then I liked the plan where they had to seduce him and then held him down. And they wrecked his shit. Interesting.
Okay.
I will search eventually.
I don't care enough.
I will, but I'll add it to my blog.
Yeah. I'm just like, the whole book was like, what's the point? And then when I realized that the point was they were actually going to kill him, was like, yes.
Yeah, it was awesome. I think that this, in general, so the dedication to this book is to people who are in these situations or have been in the past.
Like
And
relationships, right?
Relationships. And I think that it was beautiful because there was the part where she was debating on whether or not they would suck his blood and take his power from him. And she was like, in the end, I caved and I did it.
Yeah.
And
she said she had the like wherewithal to resist and she needed to help them resist.
Mm-hmm.
But then like couldn't.
Yeah. And I think it was just a beautiful moment for all three of them to come together. And they had been like Dracula leaving them to their devices and expecting them to care for one another where he wouldn't was his downfall. It was
they created too strong of a bond with each other because he was so bleh.
It broke my heart when the moment they took Alexei in and Constanza was like, I was already falling for him and I knew I would have to protect him from you. And that hurt me.
Yeah.
It hurt me so much. I like that this message though is like, nothing about this was anti-non-monogamy. Like none of it was about the jealousy of them. Like they were all in love and there for each other. It was about the one patriarch who was specifically targeting them and finding ways. Oh, that one scene when Alexei is crying and he's like, he can't know how much he hurts us, right? A person wouldn't do that. And then Constanza just knew that he would. Constanza knew he knew exactly what he
did. He genuinely was a bad person. In my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I'll take it.
Are there other reasons?
No, that's fair. Sorry if we got too far away while you're looking it up. Yeah, I just thought that it was overall a really beautiful ending, and I was so sad that they parted ways.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that's why I'm curious about you saying that there's this short story where they like meet back up.
Yeah,
it's intriguing because we'd leave the book with them like all kind of going off to do separate things.
But it was so empowering because they all had to find out who they were on their own before
coming back.
Got to find out, yeah.
Yeah, I think the ending like made the story for me. And if it was any longer, I think I would have been like, this was not, what's the point? But it was so quick and short that it felt good.
Yeah. I just love Constanza as well. Like, I would die for that woman. I think I have a crush on her. I love her.
Fair. I don't really have any other thoughts.
I have just some general vampire things I looked into. Not a ton.
Tell us about vampires.
One that was very important was Ruby had questions about the Confederacy-ness of vampires. Because usually they tend to be part of the Confederate Army. The most research I could find is most of it has to do with location and the existence of the Southern Gothic, and most of them having like Twilight, the character, Vampire Diary is one of the characters, and I think even like Interview with a Vampire takes place in the South. It says a lot of it is that in 1862 is when the South started conscripting anybody over 18. So a lot of them would have been forced into being Confederate soldiers.
Okay.
So that was interesting. I learned that.
Learning things.
I
picked up my crochet while you're learning us about vampires.
I don't have much. The word vampire was introduced to the dictionary in 1734. Not interesting.
A long time ago.
I was shook when I was reading like Carmilla and I was reading Dracula and like they used the word vampire. I just didn't expect it. I thought it was gonna be more
right, like because you feel like this is the first time that those concepts were.
Well, it's kind of like The Walking Dead. Never in the show do they use the word zombie.
Oh.
The entire time it runs. So I just thought they wouldn't use the word vampire. I also didn't know that vampires were known to be able to turn into not just a bat, but they can turn into rats, owls, moths, foxes, wolves, and sometimes just a puff of air vapor, like mist, a cloudy mist. Isn't that interesting?
I don't understand.
Yeah, I also
they can be because to me like a vampire is a
bat,
like being, like why can they shapeshift now?
Yeah.
Oh, what?
Whoa.
I've never heard that.
Well, because so in Twilight, bring up Twilight again. The werewolves in Twilight are technically not werewolves; they're shapeshifters. Is the species that they are. Vampires, like I just didn't realize. So Dracula himself, I think he can turn into a wolf because at one scene he turns into a wolf when he's like leaving the boat where he murdered a bunch of people. And then there's like certain times of day where he can change. It's like noon, midnight, and midday, something like that. So just little things. So I think it's just part of their powers. Yeah, their powers in general were interesting because Constanza said a couple times how just the older you were, the more your powers developed.
Okay.
Which I thought was really interesting. And then when Dracula killed the person who made him a vampire and sucked his blood, he got his powers too. So that's what Constanza, Alexi, and Mary Magdalena, they were sucking Dracula's blood to get his power.
Okay. I understand.
I don't think it made any sense. So if you did, I'm impressed.
No, what you're saying I understand, but I didn't know that. Yeah. I didn't realize that they could be other things.
Me neither. I didn't realize it either. And it's kind of weird to think about. I also think it's so interesting. So in Dracula, he can't be near garlic. Like they use garlic to keep him away. And I was like, who chose this? Who chose
garlic? Is that the first time that was ever a thing? Like did Dracula? I don't know who wrote Dracula. Did they come up with that?
I don't know if it was mentioned in Carmilla, and that came out before.
The garlic thing.
I wanted to read the original vampire text. It's called Vampire by some John guy. I have it. I just didn't get to it. Some John guy.
Nice. John Doe?
Yeah, John Doe.
Okay.
Ooh, Martine's reading an educate us, Martine.
Well, I just do not. I'm happy that you're hyperfixating. Well, I can learn things and then move on.
My hyperfixating included getting research articles. It's been bad here. My whole world is vampires. Everybody at work knows that I only am talking about vampires.
You're in your vampire era right now?
Yes, there was a disease. It was called porphyria or something like that. And it was a disease that has very similar symptoms to vampirism and the not being able to go in the sunlight, stuff like that.
They use flowers for what?
It's garlic flowers kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. It's so funny. So one of the girls is dying in Dracula, and so Van Helsing, who's the doctor there to help her, is it's a vampire, and so he brings some garlic in to try and protect her, and her mom comes in and is like, it stinks in here, and literally throws out all the garlic and leaves the window open, and that's
This
how
is
she
my
died.
protection.
That's how our young girl ends up dying, because she basically gave an invitation to Dracula. I didn't know that rabies would make you averse to garlic. Interesting. Yeah. Sunlight to... Oh, I didn't realize it was like a combo of them.
Thins the skin.
Ugh. Bloody.
Ew. This is so weird to me.
My last point that I have that is kind of upsetting just to me for personal reasons.
Okay.
That in medieval times, they considered redheads to be vampires. And like the ancient Greeks thought that gingers, when they died, became vampires.
There was, they, who was redheaded in this? Somebody was redheaded. Is that this book? Am I reading another book? That's
okay, I didn't know about this one. I just took it personally as a redhead. I took it very offended. Like, I'm upset.
I'm trying to think of the other books I just finished, because I feel like they're one of the books I just finished talked about redheads also.
Constanza was a redhead? I didn't even know that. I guess that is kind of red.
It's funny to me. Sorry to laugh at rabies. Oh.
I love to bite. Do I have rabies?
Maybe. That would explain a lot.
Hey! Come be a guest on my show, Danielle. Let me roast you.
Are you surprised?
No, it's what I'm here for. So, you gave it a 4 stars. Do you still feel good with your 4 stars?
I do still feel good with my 4 stars. Like, I think that just like this being short and like to the point, it was just like a fun, quick thing that like I don't feel the urge that you guys all seem to feel to like deep dive into vampires now. But like for what this story was, I had a good time.
I just, obviously, my love of Twilight, I've always been pretty into vampires.
Yeah.
But this has definitely unlocked a passion for them. I'm very obsessed with them. And I think I'll continue to...
Yeah, I'm excited to see your vlog.
Oh, sorry. I just saw that was in there. Okay. Yeah, thanks. I have a vlog where I'm going to try and read. I'm kind of just throwing in as many vampire things as I can.
Until, like, when are we going to see this?
Get bored.
Okay.
Till I get bored.
By the end of the year?
I hope so, because I probably won't do like a vlog clip of every time I throw one of the Twilight movies, because I'm doing the Twilight movies as like a Rocky Horror Picture Show, so I want us all to have fun and like throw things and make jokes and do all that. So I'm probably gonna try and at least vlog some of that. Okay. So whenever that happens, but I need money to buy snacks for it.
That's how consumerism works. You need money to buy things.
Mm-hmm. Not a good time.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm only deep diving because of this discussion.
I mean, like, you knew that you made a decision to pick a vampire book, and so you felt the need to educate yourself.
Exactly. That's what it was. I wanted to educate myself for her origin.
My thing, though, is like the more you learn, does it make you want to read more vampire stuff, or the more you learn, are you just kind of like getting more over it?
No, I think I want to read more.
You're getting more intrigued.
Yeah, because I did read. I will recommend if anybody wants a steamy vampire one.
Oh,
Katie Roberts' vampire series. It was fun. It was so fun. So that started things. You didn't like Martine. Has your opinion on vampire books changed? Oh, I didn't change them. Okay.
Oh.
Well, and then I had no idea. Like I Am Legend. You know the movie with Will Smith? Okay, very popular movie, but that makes it seem more like zombies. And I had no idea.
Vampires are like zombies?
No. So in that movie with Will Smith,
okay,
the antagonist is a zombie-like creature.
Okay.
But the original source material is a vampire.
Ooh. Like they
So
used a different being,
yeah.
basically.
And then I also I had no idea that Salem's Lot was a Dracula retelling, like Stephen King's Salem's Lot. I didn't realize it was a direct Dracula retelling
Hmm.
or reimagining, whatever.
I didn't know that either, but I also didn't. I've never been interested in either of those things.
What did you think, Martine? Should I be excited? I liked this article I found. It's called Not Just Dead, but Gay, Queerness and the Vampire. That was a good one. That was a good one.
I'm waiting for Martine's thoughts.
Basically, my final reports for this is please be gay, do vampire things.
Was this your favorite vampire thing you've read so far?
Oh,
this a Dowry?
For this challenge or in my life?
Give an answer for both if it's different.
I don't know if I could put anything above Twilight.
Okay.
But I would say
You're
it
Twilight.
It is probably one of the best written vampire things.
Okay.
And I would say it's definitely one that I respect more.
Okay, that's conceding something.
Yeah. Be gay, bite people. That's what I want the message from the live show to be.
Okay. And that's what we're leaving. That's what we're leaving them with for this discussion.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about your next book?
Yeah, I do. I did message Ashley today to discuss what works for her next month, but we are reading Legendborn by Tracy Deonn, which is a YA fantasy.
I'm excited for it. I've wanted to read it, but I kind of actually removed it from my want to read.
It is one of those things that, like, when it first came out and was like really popular, I had my eye on, and then obviously never got to it. I don't read a lot of that genre, so I do think it's interesting that, like, right, I had kind of moved on from interest, and then she picked it, so we will be reading it.
That'll be fun. Are you gonna pick up more from S.T. Gibson?
Am I?
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I would probably read the little short story epilogue situation if it fit for some reason, like a prompt I needed, or like, but I'm not like, I wouldn't be actively seeking out her stuff. Like, I'm not itching to read.
I'll let you know if it's worth it.
Necessarily. Yeah, and like if I heard another thing by them was good, I'm by no means going to be deep diving into their stuff at this point. But I could be convinced.
I'll keep you updated.
Okay. Because you are going to be?
Oh.
Like, are you now thinking you're a big fan of the author?
Depends. It depends. I want to hear how unique her voice is in different ones. Like, is it going to feel like I'm just wanting to read from Constanza?
That's what my thing is. Like, what they write next, are they just going to be trying to recreate this feeling, or is it going to be like a whole different thing? Depends.
That's what intrigues me. I think that's what intrigues me is how much is, like, Madeline Miller, her voice is so distinct, but I wouldn't say it feels like the same character every time and the same writing every time. Like, it's her writing, but it doesn't feel like just the same thing. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Martine, yes.
We'll see what this author does.
Well, thanks for having me. I hope I didn't.
I'm so excited that you finally got to pick, because I know you had been itching to pick for a while.
Yeah, I hope I can pick again. Obviously, I at least get something that everybody likes.
Yeah, I'm interested. We need to go look at Lizzie's spreadsheet for how this book lays, because I think quite a few of us read it. Yeah, Lizzie created a spreadsheet in the Shelf This group. It's pinned somewhere. I'll find it. That shows like everybody's ratings for all the books that have ever been picked. So I think you can see like what books have been liked the most, and then like also like your personal ones you've read. And what you've
I'll have to update it with mine. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, I'll find it and like re-mention it somewhere today.
Cool.
Okay.
And I would love to, like, I'm gonna come back and see any comments if anybody watches this late. Let's just know.
Yeah. I know more people read it than were here, so that does usually kind of happen. I usually have a couple people trickle into the comments after the fact.
I'll be hunting.
Okay.
I'll be.
I'll let you know if it happens so you don't have to keep checking back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. This was that. Thanks for coming. Bye.
Bye.